Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today we're going to interview financial astrologer Ray Merriman. We're going to ask him questions about his astrological forecasts for the world of politics, business, economics, and individual celebrities. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, because we have a lot of celebrity interviews coming up, I want to ask you to remember to click on the notification bell so that you can be notified every time we upload a new episode. I'd also like to tell you about HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities, so check them out. A live 15-second call is $19.95 and a live 30-second call is $29.95. You can purchase a call for yourself or for someone you care about. And there are more than 100 celebrities to choose from. So give it a try. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, anyone who watches the news knows the world is getting more uncertain every day. Ray Merriman is a financial astrologer who also employs astrological data to enhance the accuracy of his readings. So today we're going to ask him a variety of questions. Now, let's say hello to Ray Merriman. Hello, Ray. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing just fine, John. Thank you for asking.
So we want to ask you a number of questions that are of great interest to us and our audience. And these questions will be about several things: the economy, individuals. So let's start out with politics. The first question is, will President Trump remain in office for the next 4 years, or will Joe Biden be successfully sworn in as the new president?
I don't believe Donald Trump will be president. I think his days are over as of January 20th. I think Joe Biden will be inaugurated. I don't know how long after that, he'll last. And I'm not so sure the inauguration will go smoothly. There could be some disruptions. On the day of inauguration, in fact, that whole period, January 14th to the 28th, is a very significant time band with geocosmic signatures. And these signatures suggest the unexpected. Things will tend to happen that nobody's anticipating. They'll be disruptive. They'll probably be disruptive. I would expect to be protests. They could become violent. I hope they won't be, but they could become, because these are the kind of signatures that the people go over the limit. They go over the boundaries. They violate the rules. And so when that happens, there can be disruptions. So we need to be prepared for that. But I don't think it means that Donald Trump will be president unless there's something, if there is something involving the military, then there is a possibility, because he is a commander in chief. But I don't really want to put a lot of emphasis on that, because I don't think that's going to happen based on his own chart. I think he's going to retreat. He's going to withdraw. So I don't see him being the leader after January 20th.
Okay. Do you know what his sign is by any chance? His astrological sign?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's a Gemini. He's born under a lunar eclipse.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you see the lockdowns continuing indefinitely, or will they come to an end soon?
Okay, I think the lockdowns are going to be erratic and sporadic. Okay, they're not going to be universal across the country. And I do see them ending sometime probably after February. I don't see a problem once we get past March. I really think there's a tremendous improvement, and this surprises everybody too. And I think by the time we get to spring and summer, we're going to see a happy, a fun-loving, a freedom-loving nation that's kind of celebrating their freedom again. They're feeling good. Things are going much better in the spring and summer than they are up until March. But after that, I see them going pretty well. And because of that, I think the coronavirus, the pandemic that we've had and the lockdowns that we've had, I think they're ending. There's going to be a lot more freedom. Travel is going to come back. And I think I'm optimistic after we get to March and later.
So states like New York and
Mm,
California appear to be imploding with vast numbers of residents
yeah.
moving out of them for taxes and other issues. Do you think the problems in those states are going to continue or will they start improving?
I think they're going to continue.
Mm.
I don't see them lowering their taxes, and I don't see people becoming immune to it or complacent about it. I think this is the beginning of a movement that's going to last till the end of the decade. I think you're going to see California, New York, Illinois, all those tax states are going to continue trying to tax, and people are going to move out, and they're going to lose their wealthiest residents.
Hmm. You know, in times of great uncertainty like this, a lot of people retreat from the markets, the conventional markets, and they go into alternatives like gold, silver. I mean, physically possessing gold, silver, and Bitcoin. What do you see happening to those three over the next few years?
I see a boom and a bust, especially in Bitcoin. I think it's in the boom period right now. Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus doesn't respect boundaries. You know, it violates boundaries. It violates any kind of rules or limits you put on it. And so it's already gone above resistance. It's gone into the upper part of our resistance. Our resistance was around 2,000, give or take 5,000. We're at the upper end of that now. It could go higher, but the thing is, with the boom and bust cycle, Uranus and Taurus, the higher it goes, the harder it falls. So once this rally is over, and I think it's over within the next year, then I think you're going to find it dropping, John. I think you're going to find it dropping 73 to 93% with Bitcoin. Now, in terms of gold, it's getting old in the tooth, if you will. You know, it started in 2000, give or take a year, around 250, and it got over 2000 this year. So it's gone up eightfold. And it's a 23 and a half year cycle. And this cycle started in 1999, 2001. So it's very old. It's due to top. It could have already topped, although I think it's got another rally in it. And I think this rally will be done by 2022, say within 18 months. And then I think it's going to lose 50 to 75% of its value in the next 2 years after that.
Do you think we're on the verge of seeing a stock market collapse, or does it still have some? Is it still robust enough to endure what's happening?
Well, remember what happened last March? I mean, we're making all-time highs as of the middle of February. 1 month later, we're down close to 40%. I see something like that happen again. I don't see prolonged depressions, but I do see these crises, financial crises, where the markets tank, and I think 30 to 50% is going to happen 1 or 2 more times in the next 5 years. In fact, I think you're going to see it in the next 1 to 3 years, and another one after that. So I see the 2020s as a period of extremes. You're going to make new highs. You're going to have sharp declines, fast but very sharp, like 30 to 50%. And I think you're going to see at least 2 recessions between now and 2028. So I don't see a prolonged depression, but I see extreme, peaks and valleys in the next 8 years.
Do you see China continuing to escalate its political and economic aggressiveness towards the U.S. over the next few years?
Yes. Yes, I think they're going to continue, at least economically. I think that's what they're concerned with more than anything else. They don't want us to interfere in their country. I mean, after all, they're a Libra. Libras, like peace. They like balance. They really don't want to fight, but they want to control, and they want to control the money. They want to control the economy. They want the whole world to trade through China. You're going to see the Silk Road project resuming, I think, and China is going to continue escalating and advancing their economic agenda. And I think now that we're moving into, we call it the Jupiter-Saturn air sign epoch for the next 140 years, you're going to see the economic power of the world shift more and more to the Far East, and China will be the leader of that. It doesn't mean the United States becomes a banana republic. I know a lot of people are afraid of that, and sometimes it seems like we are a banana republic. But the United States will be strong, but China is going to be increasingly stronger. in the next few years.
Speaking of which, today is supposed to be a very astrologically significant day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me
Jupiter conjunct Saturn.
tell me about what's going on today and what sort of effects it will have on things.
Okay, well, first of all, it's Jupiter conjunct Saturn. It happens every 20 years. And about every 200 years, it shifts elements. It goes from earth to air to water to fire. Well, it's been in the earth element for the last 200 years. It hasn't been in the air element since the Magna Carta back in 1200s. So that was a transformation of English law where individuals began to have more rights. Kings began to lose their rights. The sovereigns lost their rights. So you're going to see major shifts like that in the next 140 years. Now, what it tells me is that the emphasis of Earth, which was on materialism, the formation of central governments, exerting more and more control over the individual's life, societies becoming more and more dependent upon governments as governments grew, the quest toward materialism and again, financial wealth. Those were the things that defined status over the last 200 years, power and money. Now we're moving into air. So the concept of status, your placement in society, is going to be determined more by your intellectual ability, your ability to communicate and to get in touch with the technology revolution that started in the 1990s. So the emphasis on what's important to people and societies is slowly beginning to shift. You won't see too much of that in the 2020s because it's just starting. But after we get to 2030, 2040, you're going to see the status of people is increase more according to their intellectual abilities and their technological abilities than on their financial wealth or governmental power and controls.
So, what sort of effect will today's alignment have on business, finance, employment?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say that first of all, it's Jupiter and Saturn, and it's Jupiter passing Saturn. Now, Saturn, they both have been in Capricorn, which is restrictive. We have been limited in the last year, as you know, because of the coronavirus, the COVID-19. We haven't been able to travel. If you're a small business, you may have had to close your doors and go through lockdowns off and on during this period. That's all going to end. Now that Jupiter is going to pass Saturn after today, it's slowly going to improve. I don't think you're going to see much improvement as far as restrictions being lifted, maybe until after February, March, as we get into April. But I think this is a good thing. This is a good thing for society. It's a good thing for business. You're going to see, especially entrepreneurs. It's very good for entrepreneurs. It may not, it's also good for education, but it's good for education in terms of those who can adjust and use more technology. You saw that develop in the last year, more technology, more Zoom meetings, more online classes. That's going to continue. And businesses that are in the business of education or training or developing vocational skills and using the internet and the online capability to teach their methods are going to do extremely well. So you're going to get, I mean, Joe Biden said this, and he's kind of right. It's kind of a K-shaped recovery. You know, if you're not on board with education, not on board with online and technology, you're going to fall behind. If you are on board, you're going to accelerate. And I think that's what we're going to see.
Do you believe the job market will continue to improve or get worse over the next year?
I think in the next year, in the next few months anyway, I think it's improving. I am concerned as we get past September because Joe Biden's, acceptance, if you will, his grace period is going to end about that time. And what we call the ingresses, the seasonal ingresses are going to start becoming more difficult after autumn. And I think what that means is he's going to start pushing through more, taxes. And well, you know how that goes. The more that you raise taxes and, the more people, the job makers are going to have to cut back hiring people. And eventually that means more less people are buying consumer goods, more businesses starting to struggle. It's a cycle. We're at the top of a cycle right now, and then sometime in late 2020, wherever now till, let's say, September of 2021, I think it peaks. And then I do think you're going to start seeing jobs becoming harder to come by, unemployment starting to, slowly increase. It doesn't become an extreme problem, I don't think, until you get to around 2026, 2029. But if you're looking for a peak in the economy, I think you're seeing it in 2020 and 2021.
Do you see Amazon continuing to grow, or has Amazon peaked?
I don't see any reason why they're not going to continue to grow. And as I see it, Amazon is serving a need that people have gotten into. The only thing that's going to interrupt Amazon is government. And that's a very real threat in the next year. And it's not just Amazon, it's Apple, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Google. They're all going to come under attack, I think, with more and more government regulation, and they may be forced to break up. I mean, that's the nature of Saturn square Uranus. The government interferes and wants to break up what they consider to be monopolies or threats. That's the biggest threat to Amazon and all these major companies. I think you're going to see that by the end of next year.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your confidence level in the banking system and its solvency, its continued solvency?
I would say my confidence level is probably maybe 5 or 6. There will be banks that will have troubles. Some will be major. I mean, this is, I see it. You're going to see some banking crises. Uranus is disruptions and breakups, and it's in Taurus, which is banking and money and a shift toward new currency valuations. And I think some banks are going to really struggle with that. Some big banks too. So, I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised, John, if we do see a bank run short term, but I do think we could see a bank run like we did in 2008 and 2009. There was a point there where the money markets fell below the buck. They bucked the buck. I think you could see something like that again by, at the latest, 2028, and maybe even in the next 2 years. But I think we pull out of it again.
So I don't know how many clients you have, how many people you guide with your forecasts, but generally speaking, on Wall Street and even London and especially Asia, what percentage of decision makers do you think rely on astrological guidance for their financial decision making?
I don't think too many rely upon it. I think many use it as one of the factors they consider in their decision making. A lot of people do. There was a point where you can go on the Chicago Board of Trade or the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and you would see copies of the Astrological Trader's Almanac or my own forecast book, because they're interested in trading and knowing where the timing is important. Timing is very critical. It gives the trader that extra edge that all traders are looking for. But as far as in the corporate offices, boardrooms, I don't think you'll see astrology talk too much in the major companies. Small businesses, maybe. I think there are people in the major companies who are aware of it, but they don't, it's still a little bit dangerous to their job security if they bring up the word astrology. I mean, there was a point just a couple of years ago where one of the major brokerage houses, started looking up all the emails their brokers, and anybody who had financial astrology mentioned there was dismissed. They were fired. So unfortunately, major businesses, and especially in investments, still have this attitude that astrology doesn't work because it shouldn't work. It doesn't matter whether they've looked at it seriously or not, done an investigation. They haven't, obviously, or they would see that there's a value here to society, but they haven't. And so we still have that stigma to work through, but we're making progress.
A few years ago, a major business magazine interviewed several dozen Asian billionaires, and they asked them all the same question. They said, how much reliance do you place on astrological forecasts in your business decision making? And without realizing it, almost all of them said the same thing. They said it is not the final determinant of what they do and when they do it, but they would never be foolish enough to dismiss it. Very interesting answer.
Very interesting, and I think that's the right approach. And you understand that in the Far East, especially in India, astrology is acceptable. It's very accepted by society. In fact, a lot of marriages can't take place unless the groom and the bride are matched up astrologically. We're a long ways from that. But you do see a big renaissance in astrology taking place now because of the internet. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of bad information, but a lot of good information too. And astrology's, it's in a renaissance period, and it's going to continue to grow, I think.
So it's interesting you should mention India, because India and China and other countries in the region, those people are famous for not only using astrology to guide their marital decision making, but also to time the birth and the procreation of children, so that they can, increase the probability of having a child of a certain sign. So it's very common out there.
Yeah.
But what do you see happening to real estate prices in Florida over the next year or two? Are they going to increase or decrease?
That's a difficult one. I think there'll be pockets where real estate will go down and become a good value somewhere in 2022, give or take a year. And again, as I said before, 2026 to 29. But I don't know if that's so much a real estate cycle as it's a reaction to cash crunch. People are having a liquidity crisis. Right now, there's a lot of cash out there, and people are thinking that's going to continue. It's never going to end. Well, it does end. These are cyclical. And the liquidity is very available right now. The Fed Reserve Board has made it very clear they're going to keep the markets liquid. But Jerome Powell leaves in 2022, and I'm not so sure the next person they bring in is going to be as accommodative as he's been. And when you have a crisis and people need money, they're cash short, they're going to sell real estate. So I do see, again, like I see two recessions in this decade. I see two periods that follow that by 6 to 12 months where real estate goes down because people need cash.
Tell me about the specifics of your service. When you provide your guidance to your clients, do you provide macro guidance, micro stock specific guidance? What is the nature of what you do?
Most of my clients are independent traders. Okay, I don't have a lot of investors, although I have an investment component to the service I provide. Investors like to buy and hold. And that's one of my pet peeves, because they always say when the market's making new highs, buy and hold works. Well, they weren't saying that in March when the market fell 38%. But the point I'm trying to make is that with the work that I do, we have long-term approach based on long-term planetary cycles and long-term market cycles. We match them up. We have intermediate cycles, which are those that last maybe 50 weeks to 4 years. And we have planetary combinations that last that long too. We match those up. And then we have trading cycles. And that's where I probably got most of my reputation from, is the trading community, because traders want that extra edge that astrology can provide. And I happen to have that niche because I combine astrology with market cycles, with technical analysis, with trend analysis, with chart patterns. Nobody else does that. So that niche that I have is what most of my clients like. They want me to pick the time periods. They want me to pick these narrow time bands when markets are making tops or bottoms, from which there's going to be, say, 2%, more likely 4% or greater moves. They like that kind of timing that I provide. That's the service I provide through Merriman Market Analysts and our daily, weekly, and monthly reports.
Now, do you use your own guidance to make your own investments in the market?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And tell me about that just in general. What have you experienced?
With my own trading?
Yes. What kind of results?
Well, I would say that when I started out as a trader back in 1978, 1980, and even though I knew astrology at that time, I wasn't very good. And I believe to this day that if you're going to be a successful trader, you have to be able to weather a lot of downturns in your account when you start. The worst thing that can happen to traders is to make a big score on their first trade, because then they think they can master it. And you don't. You have to go through some problems. You realize, whoa, I need to be disciplined. So it probably took me about 10 years before I started making any money through trading.
By
And
the way, the same holds true for visiting a casino and winning a lot of money in your first hour. It
well,
almost guarantees you're going to get wiped out by the end of the day.
there's probably some correlation there. I mean, let's face it, commodities trading, which is what I do. I don't do too much with stocks. I'm mostly in commodities or ETFs in the stock market. But it's risky and it's speculative. It's not buy and hold where you're going to buy it and you're going to hold on to it for a long, long time. You're buying it with the idea that I'm going to make a profit, usually within about 3 days to 3 months. That's my time band. That's my normal time band for myself to trade. And I'd say most of my clients trade that way too. So there's a speculative quality to it. It's not quite as speculative as gambling, but it's speculative.
Have any of your clients who relied on your investment advice ever come back to you with a story about what happened, good or bad?
Oh yeah, I had this one client. I loved him very much. He was great. For many years we used to talk on the phone, and he wrote me one year, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe 10 years ago, that he wanted to thank me. He wanted to call me and just thank me because his IRA account went up from 60,000 to 750,000, and he wanted me to know that he attributed that to me. Another client in the last year, who's a good trader and he's a good analyst himself, but he wanted to follow my methods on my daily report, and he just wanted to trade gold. So he traded gold for October of, I think it was last year, and he sent me his trading statement. He started with $11,000 in that account, and he sent me the statement at the end. Every trade he made was successful, and at the end of the month he was worth $65,000. So you can make a lot of money in a short amount of time trading futures using these methods.
So Elon Musk seems to be taking America into the future with his companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink. Now we hear he may be getting involved in electric-powered yachts. Do you see Elon and his companies continuing their successful growth into the future?
It's like those other big companies I mentioned, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, Google. It's the same thing with Elon Musk. His biggest threat is going to be the government. And the government, I believe, is going to go after people like Elon Musk. I hate to say it. And he's already had some difficulties. And he, with the government, with the California, he moved out of California, as you know, to Texas. And he's an innovator. He's going to continue to innovate. He's a very brilliant man, I think. He's going to continue innovating, but he's going to be very aggravated and frustrated with the types of regulations and type of interference the government is going to put onto him. And, I think that's unfortunate because I'm a great believer in free enterprise and the capitalistic system. And I make no qualms about it. I really think that's what is a future for success for humankind. I think Elon Musk represents that. But, we have a government, and it's going to increase in its desire to regulate and to hold back people who they think are growing too fast and not paying enough taxes in their mind. And I think Elon Musk might be a target as well.
A lot of people think this is a good time to sell everything and just convert it all to cash and gold. Ride out all the insanity until there's a return to relative normalcy. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't be opposed to going totally cash in the next couple of weeks, at the end of the year, early next year, because I think you've got a big crisis coming up before February. I wouldn't be surprised to see the market drop at least 10%, maybe a lot more like it did last year. So I wouldn't mind taking, and I will, and I have, and I will continue taking my positions off, and I'll go into cash until we get that kind of a decline, till we get to at least February or so, and I see a decline. But I'm going to go back in. I love gold. I love speculating. It's in my blood now. And
by the way, do you take possession of your gold, or do you have it stored somewhere?
I mean, I have some possession of gold, but I'm quite comfortable trading ETFs on gold.
Before we wrap things up, if people want to get a hold of you for an astrological consultation or some financial guidance, what is the name of your website? What's the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact me is through the website, mmacycles.com. You probably won't get me to do a consultation. I don't do but one a month. My business is mostly involved in providing daily, monthly, and weekly services to traders. So you're not going to get an astrological consultation, but you're more than welcome to review my reports and see if they can help you make money and get control of your financial destiny.
And you said your reports come out daily, or is it monthly?
I have both. I have a daily subscription service, I have a weekly subscription service, a monthly subscription service. I have an annual book that's it's coming out now. It's printed, but I haven't received it yet, but it's in the mail.
So what is the name of your book, and when do you anticipate it coming available?
I anticipate it being available this week. It's called Forecast for 2021. Okay. I write it every year. It's about a 250 page book. Covers the national politics, business climate, the health climate. I have a big part of this book about COVID-19, how I think it's going to evolve. And then it covers the stock market, gold, silver, currency markets, grains, crude oil, and treasury notes and interest rates.
By the way, you mentioned COVID-19. What do you think is going to happen with this vaccine? Is it going to help dramatically, or are people's limbs and noses going to start falling off?
I think it's going to help dramatically. Okay. But I don't I don't necessarily tell people that you have to go get a vaccine. You know, it's I'm not so sure what the result of vaccine is going to be for some people. I think some people have allergic reactions, but I do think it's going to be a game changer as far as our society and our economy is concerned.
Well, listen, thank you for being on the John Ark Show, and you're always welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you, John.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.